everybody, it's Biz Higby here. It is the 22nd of April and I am here to read you the next chapter in The Royal Rabbits of London, The Hunt for the Golden Carrot. Before we start, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has been sharing these videos and telling everybody else about them so that more children who are in our class can enjoy them. So thank you. And also thank you to everybody who has shared with me their children enjoying the story. It really does mean a lot, so thank you. So we are on chapter 3 now of the story. Shiloh was on his way back to the Warren, but unfortunately missed Farmer Ploughman's van back to the countryside. And they just so happened to bump into a fox. So let's see what happens next. I hope that you're sitting comfortably. I wouldn't do this for anyone else, said Sharptooth Bushytail, the magnificently glossy and debonair fox, also known as STBT, who was astride a gleaming motorbike in a secret alleyway near number 10 Downing Street, where Red Velvet had arranged for them to meet, and where the Hopster Rabbits had left them in order to make their meeting on time. But I like you, Shiloh, and I'm well acquainted with the Warren. He grinned at the little rabbit, and his pearly white teeth shone brightly. Then the fox added, with a glint in his eye and a gleam on his tooth, there's a vixen near your home who makes a mean butterscotch on the rocks, just the way I like it. He smoothed his lustrous red fur with a paw that sported a large silver ring. Luckily for you, I'm not just the most floxifluous fox in the country, I'm also the fastest. Climb up behind me and I'll show you. He lowered a helmet over his head, then tossed one to Shiloh. This might be a bit big for you, but it'll hide your rabbit face from humans. Shiloh caught the helmet, then nearly dropped it because it was heavier than it looked. He'd been watching STBT with more than a little dread. Was he really going to take him to Northamptonshire on the back of a Harley-Davidson motorbike? STBT and his network of urban foxes, known as the Backstreet Brushes, looked after the Prime Minister. STBT claimed that without him keeping watch, the country would go to ruin. And Shiloh had seen an enormous portrait of STBT riding his motorbike on the wall of the Fox Club under number 10 Downing Street. But he had never seen the motorbike for real. Now he was being asked to climb on it and sit behind the fox as they sped to the countryside. If he didn't long to see his mother so much, he would have refused. But Red Velvet had explained to STBT that this was the only week Shiloh was able to go home because Nelson needed him back in 7 days. And STBT had kindly agreed to take him. Although Shiloh was almost certain the offer had as much to do with STBT wanting to show off his enormous shiny motorbike as much as wanting to help Shiloh get home. He swallowed his fear and with a big leap he jumped up onto the leather seat behind the fox. Hold on tight, little rabbit, said STBT as Shiloh grabbed the fox's white leather jacket. There was a sudden roar and the bike vibrated beneath Shiloh like a terrifying monster, making his teeth chatter and his fur stand on end. Then came a few loud bangs and they were off, zooming down the streets of London and out into the open countryside. And because they were going so fast, none of the humans, busily talking on their smartphones or in passenger seats, watching movies on their iPads, noticed the fox and the rabbit roaring past them. And if they did, they simply thought that they were two, very small, people on their way to a fancy dress party. As they drove, Shiloh found that he was actually beginning to enjoy himself. It was a thrilling sensation riding a motorbike with the most powerful fox in the country. Goodness, he thought. If my brothers and sisters could see me now, they'd be totally amazed. Shiloh's ears flew out behind him, and he relaxed as STBT glided through the cars and lorries as if he were a bird on the wind. So that is Shiloh and STBT on the motorbike. After a while, they left the motorway and set off down the country lanes. Shiloh didn't know where he was exactly, but he could tell he was getting closer to home because he recognised the yellow fields, the hedgerows bursting with blackberries. It smelled familiar too, of the sweet scent of cut wheat and barley and the rich fragrance of the mossy forest. His heart expanded with happiness. It wouldn't be long before he saw the warren again. STBT pulled into a farm entrance and drove half a mile up a dirt track to hide beside a small copse at the edge of a field. He switched off the engine and took off his helmet and shook out his luxurious fur. Time for a break. You hungry, Bunkin? I'm always hungry, Shiloh replied, although, to be honest, he had been so busy enjoying the ride and dreaming of home that he hadn't thought about his stomach. Now it gave a growl, demanding to be fed. STBT pulled out a couple of snack bars from his pocket. Ferret and frog flapjack or mouse and mole meringue, both very tasty in my opinion. In fact, I'd find it quite hard to choose. He pretended to weigh them in both paws. Ferret, frog, mouse, yes, very difficult. They're delish. No, thank you, said Shiloh, trying to be polite. If you don't mind, I'll nibble a bit of grass, and there'll be some spilled wheat in that field, I'll bet. He climbed down and stretched. He was a bit stiff after sitting in the same position for such a long time. While STBT chewed on the mouse and mole meringue, Shiloh hopped into the field in search of grain. It wouldn't entirely satisfy him, but it would do until he got home to his mother's corn and barley stew. Oh, the thought of that made his belly ache with longing. Just then, he was alerted to the sound of a motor and the yelping of dogs. STBT heard it too. His whole body stiffened, his ears pricked, and his sharp eyes narrowed. A farmer with hunting dogs, he said. Shiloh felt as if a cold wind had just rippled through his fur. He knew all about farmers with guns and packs of dogs. The Queen's corgis at the palace were very scary, but country dogs were even worse. It appears those dogs have picked up the scent of a fox, growled STBT, scratching his chin. Shiloh stood on his hind legs and looked about him. He could just make out a quad bike on the horizon, slowly getting bigger and bigger. Was it coming towards them? Where's the poor fox? He asked. That would be me, said STBT, pointing at himself in a much too casual way for a fox who was about to be chased by a farmer with a gun and dogs. Shiloh stared at him in alarm. They must have picked up our scent somewhere down the lane. Come on, we need to lose them, STBT said, putting his helmet back on. And if we don't? Shiloh asked, jumping onto the back of the motorbike as fast as he could and fastening his own helmet before grabbing hold of STBT's leather jacket. We'll be torn to shreds in the jaws of those dogs. The noise of the dogs got louder. The thunder of the quad bike made the ground shake. STBT turned on the ignition and the Harley-Davidson sped off with a bang. Shiloh was so close to home now, he could almost smell his mother's cooking. How awful would it be if he was eaten by dogs just before he got there? STBT drove skillfully down the farm track and back out into the lane. He knew it was unlikely that the quad bike would chase them in the road, because it was much too dangerous with cars coming and going, but STBT enjoyed a bit of danger. Sometimes in London, life got a little dull. With a wild laugh, he skidded round the corner and drove through a gap in the hedge into another field of stubble. Shiloh didn't know what the fox was doing, and he was much too scared to ask. He could hear the quad bike and the dogs getting louder. The farmer must think they're poachers, he reasoned. No one would imagine they were, well, a rabbit and a fox on a motorbike. But at least that meant the farmer wouldn't shoot at them. As they bumped across the field, Shiloh managed to glance behind him. To his surprise and horror, he saw that it was Farmer Ploughman's wife on the quad bike. Mrs. Ploughman's face was red and furious. Two big dogs sat alongside her on the bike, sniffing the air, salivating at the thought of fox and rabbit for dinner, no doubt. Shiloh hadn't realised he was already on the ploughman's land. The farm must be a lot bigger than he thought. Shiloh turned away and squeezed his eyes shut. Please, please, he prayed silently to the great rabbit in the sky. Don't let them catch us. The Harley-Davidson bucked and bounced, and STBT made it go faster and faster, as if he was relishing the challenge. Shiloh buried his face in STBT's jacket. When the ride felt smooth again, Shiloh guessed they must be out of the field and back in the lane. He risked peeping with his one eye. Remember, the other was hidden behind his red patch, and saw that they were approaching a pub. The sign outside read, "The Fox and Hounds." Surely we're not going in there, Shiloh thought anxiously, imagining it full of farmer ploughmans and hungry hounds with sharp teeth. What he didn't realise was that they were going somewhere far worse. STBT sped round the pub and into the car park behind at top speed, and there, half hidden in a small grove of leafy trees and bushes, was an old wooden shed. STBT pulled a horseshoe hanging on the wall, and a big door opened. The bike motored on into a chamber, and the door shut behind them. The fox picked up a stone from a dusty old box, aimed it at a row of tin cans lined above the door, and threw it. It hit the second can from the right with a crack. Immediately, a stream of smoke billowed out of a rusty old exhaust pipe, enveloping them. That's to hide the smell of fox, said STBT. We should wait here for a while until the danger is past. A door swung open like a big, dark mouth. Shiloh was suddenly overcome by the smell of fox. It was musty and strong, and caught in the back of his throat, making his eyes water. Don't fear, Bunkin, you're with me, remember? Said STBT. Shiloh gulped. The only other time he had smelled this much fox was at the Fox Club. But there the foxes were friendly and had a special relationship with the royal rabbits. His experience of country foxes was not as pleasant. The foxes near the warren most certainly ate rabbits. Lots of rabbits. Outside he could hear the frantic yelping of dogs as they lost their scent. What choice did Shiloh have, fox or hound? The smell of fox grew stronger and stronger, and Shiloh heard voices. He was gripped with terror, but his heart told him to trust STBT. He just hoped that trust was not misplaced. STBT revved his motorbike, then drove through the smoke right into the middle of a pub full of foxes. Like the Fox Club, there was a bar with stools and tables and chairs where foxes sat and drank and played cards. But this place was nothing like as polished and gleaming as the Fox Club. It was rough and dusty, with wooden walls and naked light bulbs hanging from a shabby wooden ceiling. The foxes stopped what they were doing and stared at the incredibly foxifluous STBT. A vixen in white breeches, black boots, a white cravat at her neck, and a scarlet jacket done up with golden buttons stepped forward. Well, if it isn't my old friend STBT, she said with a wide smile. I'll bet you're as thirsty as a dashing red fox who's just motored up from London on a Harley Davidson. She handed him a cocktail and ran her eyes over Shiloh. Did you bring your own dinner? Shiloh realised that he was now being watched by all of the foxes in the pub. He tried to make himself smaller, drawing his head onto his shoulders. One fox put out his paw. It was so close, Shiloh could almost feel the claws against his fur. With a swift movement, and without spilling a single drop of his cocktail, STBT grabbed the paw. No, you don't, he said coolly. His voice was deep and masterful, and it stilled every fox in the room. This is Shiloh Tawnytail, he growled, and he's with me. Shiloh peered around sheepishly. The vixen smiled at him without allowing the surprise to show on her face. Welcome to the Fox and Fox, Shiloh, she said. I'm Riot. What can I get you? And that is the end of chapter 3. So Shiloh's still not made it back to the Warren yet to see his family. And he's ended up in a pub full of foxes. Come back tomorrow for chapter 4. Look forward to seeing you all then. Bye!